Hi, my name is Mark, and I'm going to talk to you about stuff on this video. In today's episode, I'm going to share a few tips on how you can be more confident on video. So stay tuned. What's going on? Welcome to the Echelon broadcast. My name is Mark with Echelon Media, helping you elevate your story. Welcome. As I mentioned before, we're going to talk about how to be more confident on video. But before we get going, make sure that if you happen to be on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to Echelon Media and make sure you hit that notification bell so that you're up to date every time I post videos like this. I do try to put out informational content on the Echelon broadcast rather than the old format of just kind of ranting on. Maybe at some point I'll do that with other details, but for now, I think it would be more beneficial for you guys to have something that you can use for your business. I'm going to drop you with 3 tips right now real quickly, but if you happen to stick around for the full video, you get a chance to actually get a bonus at the very end, so make sure you stick around for that. So, point number 1, remember that this is a process. You're learning along the way. So don't be so hard on yourself because you're only learning as you go. And if you don't dive in, you're never going to actually get the opportunity to understand what it is that you need to do to take the criticisms that you get and the feedback that you get to actually improve. But in order to do that, you have to actually practice and just get in and start doing it. Which leads me to my next point, and it's that no one gives a shit. We're a lot more critical of ourselves, and it makes it seem harder because there's so many things that makes us a little bit self-conscious about what it is that we're doing. So we're looking at the video and we're thinking, oh God, there's that stray hair, or maybe I have a pimple and everyone's gonna see that. But for the most part, no one gives a shit. And really, if there is any good feedback that you can get from people, by all means, apply that down the road, so long as it actually applies to improving what it is that you're trying to say in your videos. If it really gets bad, what you can actually do is write it out. I don't mean actually write out a script, more to say that you're going to actually create an outline or a template for what it is that you want to talk about so that you keep your why in mind and you focus on making it informative for people so that it's usable for them. And you also want to make sure that it's short and to the point. Because if you start to ramble on, you can kind of get even more self-conscious and start to realize, oh, what the hell was I even talking about? So hopefully those 3 points can be beneficial for you. Let's go a little bit deeper into some of these points. And I'm going to actually refer to my notes now because, well, we're going into the extended version. And I want to actually dig down deep into what you can use with all this info. Remembering that it's a process. Yeah, the thing is you need reference experience. And the thing that most people don't realize, especially if you're in a particular field, like say, for example, you're a real estate broker. You didn't start out knowing real estate. You weren't born with the skills for real estate. You may have had prerequisite abilities that helped you be good at sales. Maybe you happen to really like houses or architecture for whatever reason. And that may predispose you to wanting to do stuff in real estate. The thing is, the rest of it is practice. You have to learn all the fundamental knowledge that comes along with that industry. You have to actually make a few sales. You have to understand the environment and the market and all of these things. And once you get to understand those little details, you'll start to get good. But usually you have to dive in and actually do it. The problem oftentimes when it comes to starting to use video to talk to people in your market, for example, is that you're out of practice. You've never done this before. And even though you might be super confident when it comes to a crowd, there is just something different when it comes to actually looking down the barrel of a camera. So be a little more forgiving with yourself and just realize that it's practice. I would say maybe put together a batch of videos, let's say 4, that you can put out every single week in a month. Look at them, put them out, and take the feedback that you get from those videos and write them out in a notebook and keep note of them so you can consider them in the future, which leads me into point number 2, and that's for the most part no one gives a shit, really. Don't know the exact research on this, but really we are a lot more critical of ourselves than we realize, and it's really problematic because it stifles us so bad when we think that all these little details don't matter. And even if there is something blatantly off, like for example, your outfit's just not good, you're having a terrible hair day, or you've got really bad acne because you indulged a little too much at the holiday party, at the company holiday party, you'll be okay. Because really, it's not about what you're necessarily super focused on as far as your looks, as much as it is the information and the value that you provide for your clients. So keep that in mind. Don't be so focused on yourself, damn it. It's all about the people and the critique that you get, the feedback that you get from people that actually helps you is usable. So take notes of those things and you can apply it to step number 3. Now, like I mentioned earlier, point number 3 is write it out. And like I said, you don't want to script this out because you want to try and be as comfortable and spontaneous and genuine as possible when you do this. If you write it out, what tends to happen is it becomes a sale. You now create more pressure for yourself to actually try and stick to the exact words that you've written down on the page. I'm guilty of this. I've done this in the past. And so it actually becomes a strength for you to be able to riff off of the points that you've written down. And you realize too that it's almost a gauge for what you really know about the topic. Because when you look at a bullet or a headline for your next point that you're going to talk about, you realize just how much or how little you know about that topic when you just riff on it. Because there's nothing to guide you. There's no crutch of the exact dictionary terms of things or the exact industry lingo that you use. You really have to rely on your communication. And this ultimately applies to how it is that you talk to people out on the street or at work. And it makes it more natural to you. And when you realize that, oh man, like I'm actually not that informed about this particular topic, it's a good way of keeping yourself accountable to making sure that if a client happens to be concerned about these points down the road, you really know it by heart instead of something that's scripted. So it's more genuine. I hope you're digging this information. So if you are and you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the page. And I say that because it really does help a ton if you subscribe and click that notification bell so that you're informed of whenever it is that I drop videos like this. If you happen to like this too, give it a like, give it a thumbs up if you like it, because that's feedback for me to know what it is that you like and what it is that you don't like. If you have something more specific to say, go ahead and do that in the comment section and really letting me know, hey, like stick to the bulleted stuff, stop rambling so much. That stuff really does help. And I try to take that as seriously as possible because it helps to better craft the information that I can get out to you. So you've made it this far. I mentioned that there was a bonus. And the bonus is you want to be as authentic and genuine and real as you possibly can on video. Because as tempting as it is to want to make this a super polished, really clean and well-produced piece, what ends up happening is, like I mentioned before, you're creating extra pressure for yourself instead of making this nice and easy process that you can do sustainably over time. And that's the name of the game. You want to be able to communicate with your market, your niche, or the people that you work with, your clients, consistently. And if you're constantly having to polish yourself, having to constantly set up the space, unless you have the budget to have a team and a studio and all those things in place, and maybe even a teleprompter if you want to get super fancy, I would say for a vast majority of people, just keep it as natural as possible as you can. Of course, keeping in mind all the feedback that you're getting from people telling you that maybe you should ramble less, or that you shouldn't be so stilted and robotic, or that maybe you should focus on making it more bulleted because people want more specific information from you rather than just rambling on. And it's really hard to create those distinctions when you're first starting. So again, going back to that original point, practice. And you want to practice this genuinely. I hope this has been beneficial. I'm really making a point to turn all this stuff for Echelon broadcast into more informative stuff so that you can use it practically for your business. And ultimately, not just for YouTube and pre-made content, but also more and more whether you happen to be on YouTube or if you happen to be on Facebook, the focus is on live and engagement. So if you can develop the skills around that, it'll actually help you a ton, especially if you're a business, because ultimately what you're doing is you're scaling your ability to be able to interface with clients on a bigger level. Because when you can reach out to them via video, it's almost as good as going to their door and talking to them. They're getting all the nuances of your behavior and all those things. It's a little more polished, and it gives you the opportunity to really put your best foot forward. So that's actually extremely useful. Go ahead and hit the subscribe. I believe that's somewhere like right down here somewhere. And there's a little notification bell next to that if you subscribe, so that you're made aware every time that a video like this drops, and I do it every week. Also, go ahead and leave any comments. If you have any suggestions or feedback or criticisms that you'd like to throw my way, go ahead and leave those down in the comments below. And of course, give it a thumbs up, because it does help me so much, so very much, to know what your thoughts are on these videos rather than just me rambling in my office. All that considered, thank you so very much for joining me here on the Echelon broadcast. My name is Mark with Echelon Media, helping you elevate your story. I will see you later. Peace out.